To the heart of the vibrant alien world of Siloria, the sun cast a golden glow over the lush valleys and towering crystalline structures. Princess Lyra, beloved by her people, stood on the balcony of her royal palace, gazing at the horizon. Her heart was heavy, not just with the weight of her royal duties, but with the secret she kept hidden from everyone. For months, she had been enchanted by a human named Alex, a diplomat who had visited Siloria to foster peace between their worlds. Alex was charming, with a warm smile that could melt the coldest of hearts. His laughter filled the air like music, and Lyra had quickly fallen for him. They spent many evenings walking through the glowing gardens of the palace, sharing stories of their worlds. With every moment they shared, Lyra's heart swelled with hope for a future that intertwined their fates. Yet there was an undercurrent of danger. Lyra's father, King Orin, had warned her about humans. He believed they were untrustworthy and only sought to exploit Siloria's resources. On this particular evening, a grand festival was being held in the capital to celebrate peace between the two races. The streets were filled with colorful lights, laughter, and the sweet aroma of exotic foods. Lyra was dressed in her finest gown, a flowing robe adorned with shimmering crystals that sparkled like stars. As she made her way through the crowd, she felt excitement mixed with a hint of dread. She knew that Alex would be there, and she longed to see him. As the sun set, casting a warm orange hue over the celebration, Lyra's eyes searched for Alex in the crowd. When their eyes met, a smile broke across his face, and he made his way through the throngs of people. They embraced, and in that moment, everything felt perfect. They talked and danced, forgetting the differences between their worlds. However, as the night wore on, Lyra noticed Alex glancing toward the shadows, where a group of humans stood, whispering among themselves. "Is something wrong?" Lyra asked, concern etched on her face. Alex hesitated, his smile faltering. "No, it's just. There are things I need to tell you. Important things." Before he could continue, a loud explosion interrupted their moment. The ground shook, and chaos erupted. People screamed, and panic spread like wildfire. Lyra's heart raced as she grabbed Alex's hand, pulling him closer. They ran toward the palace, where guards were already mobilizing. Inside the palace, King Orin stood, his expression grim as he reviewed reports from his advisors. "It seems we have been betrayed," he announced, his voice echoing in the grand hall. "What do you mean?" Lyra asked, fear gripping her heart. "What has happened?" "A faction of humans has launched an attack, exploiting our trust," the king replied. "They are after our technology and resources. They have an inside man, someone who has shared our secrets." Lyra's eyes widened, her heart sank. She turned to Alex, who looked pale and conflicted. "Alex, do you know anything about this?" I don't know," he stammered, the guilt evident in his eyes. "I came here to help. I swear." Just then, a soldier rushed in, panting heavily. "Your Majesty, we've intercepted communications. The traitor is one of the diplomats." Lyra's heart stopped. "Alex?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "No," Alex cried out, shaking his head desperately. "I would never betray you, Lyra." But the king's face was stern. "We have evidence. Your trust has been misplaced. Princess, you have been fooled by a human." As the weight of the words sunk in, Lyra felt a storm of emotions rise within her: anger, sadness, and betrayal. "You were using me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "No, I was not," Alex pleaded, stepping closer to her. "I was trying to build a bridge to bring our worlds together, but I never intended for this to happen." Lyra shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "You don't understand. You've put my entire kingdom at risk." The guards were now whispering among themselves, eyes darting between Lyra and Alex. Lyra felt her heart hardening. "I trusted you, and you betrayed me. You've betrayed my people." Alex reached out, but she stepped back, her heart breaking. The festival that had once been filled with joy now felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by despair and anger. The world around her blurred as she realized the gravity of the betrayal. In that moment, something shifted inside Lyra. The pain morphed into a burning desire for revenge. She looked at Alex, and for the first time, she saw not the charming diplomat but a traitor, a human who had brought ruin upon her world. The darkness in her heart grew stronger, fueled by her hurt and rage. As the palace went into chaos, Lyra turned away from Alex, her mind racing with thoughts of retribution. She knew she had to protect her people, and she would do whatever it took to ensure their safety. The warmth of love had turned cold, replaced by a fierce determination. She would not allow betrayal to go unpunished. Let them come, she thought. Let them try. I will make them pay. With a heavy heart, Lyra stepped into her father's war room, ready to formulate a plan that would shake the very foundations of Earth. The alien princess was no longer the naive girl in love. She was a warrior ready to unleash her wrath upon those who had wronged her. The gathering storm. The war room of the palace was dimly lit, the air thick with tension. Maps of the galaxy adorned the walls, marking territories and the positions of both human and Silurian forces. Princess Lyra stood at the center, surrounded by her most trusted advisors and military commanders. The betrayal weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she knew she had to act swiftly. King Orin stood beside her, his face a mask of determination. We must prepare for an assault. This treachery cannot go unanswered, he said, his voice steady. The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention to the princess, waiting for her command. Lyra took a deep breath, pushing aside her lingering feelings for Alex. We need to gather our fleet and fortify our defenses. The humans will come for us now that they think we are vulnerable, she declared, her voice echoing in the stone chamber. A burly commander named Herrick stepped forward, his brow furrowed in concern. Your Highness, we don't know how many forces the humans have or how much damage they can cause. If we engage them without a solid plan, we risk everything. Lyra nodded, knowing he spoke the truth. I understand, Commander, but we can't afford to wait. We must show them that we are not to be trifled with. We must retaliate, and we must do it swiftly. As the room buzzed with discussions and strategies, Lyra felt a sense of urgency. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and anger. Images of Alex flooded her mind, but she quickly pushed them aside. He had made his choice, and now she had to make hers. Gather our best warriors and strategists. I want to meet with the Council of Elders, she ordered, her voice firm. We need to harness the power of our technology and prepare for a counterattack. The council consisted of the wisest beings in Siluria, who had witnessed countless battles and had vast knowledge of the universe. They would offer insights that could turn the tide in her favor. As the advisors rushed to carry out her orders, Lyra took a moment to compose herself. She could feel the fire of vengeance burning within her, igniting a determination that she had never felt before. It was a feeling that both exhilarated and terrified her. Later that evening, Lyra sat in the grand chamber with the Council of Elders. The room was adorned with intricate carvings that told the history of her people, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The elders, wise and ancient, listened intently as she shared her plans. The humans believe they can take our world by surprise, but they do not know the strength of Siluria, she said, her voice steady. We have advanced technology and an unwavering spirit. Together, we will show them the consequences of their betrayal. Elder Kiren, a venerable figure with a long white beard, raised a hand to speak. Princess Lyra, while your passion is commendable, we must consider the repercussions of war. We cannot underestimate the humans. They are resourceful and cunning. I understand the risks, Lyra replied, her tone unwavering. But I cannot sit idle while they plot against us. My heart aches for the betrayal I suffered, and it only fuels my desire to protect our people. We must strike first. The elders exchanged glances, and after a moment of silence, Kiren nodded. Very well, we will support your plan, but we must also prepare for the worst. If war is upon us, we will need every ounce of strength we possess. With their approval, Lyra felt a surge of determination. She would not allow her love for Alex to cloud her judgment any longer. The time for action was now, and she would lead her people into battle if it meant securing their safety. As the sun rose over Xaloria, casting a warm glow across the land, the preparations for war began in earnest. Lyra oversaw the training of troops and the reinforcement of defenses around the capital. Her people rallied behind her, inspired by her bravery and leadership. However, despite her focus on the battle ahead, thoughts of Alex lingered in the back of her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The sting of love turned sour. The memories of their time together haunted her, but she pushed through, channeling that pain into her preparations. One day, while reviewing the fleet's readiness, she noticed a figure in the distance. It was Alex, standing at the edge of the palace grounds, watching her with a pained expression. Her heart raced at the sight of him. He looked lost and distraught, a shadow of the charming diplomat she once knew. "Lyra," he called, his voice filled with desperation. She turned away, anger boiling within her. "You have no place here, Alex. You've betrayed me and my people. Please, just let me explain," he pleaded, stepping closer. "Explain what?" "That you were a spy all along. That you used me to gather information for your people." She felt her heart clench at the thought. "No, it wasn't like that. I wanted to stop them. I wanted to help," he exclaimed, his eyes pleading. "Help?" Lyra scoffed. "How could you possibly help after everything that's happened? You put us all in danger." "Lyra, I swear I didn't know about the attack. I was only here to forge peace between our worlds," he said, desperation lacing his voice. She shook her head, torn between her feelings and her duty. "You had your chance. Now, it's too late." With that, she turned away, refusing to look back. She could not afford to let her heart sway her judgment. The time for war was approaching, and she needed to be strong for her people. Alex's presence would only complicate matters further. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra stood on the balcony once more, staring out at the stars. The universe felt vast and cold, but she knew that she had to fight for her world. With the echoes of betrayal ringing in her ears, she steeled herself for the battle that awaited her. The storm was gathering, and Lyra was ready to unleash her wrath. She would not let betrayal define her. She would become the champion of her people and ensure that the humans learned a valuable lesson. The time for action was now, and the princess was determined to take back control of her fate. The gathering forces. The days that followed were filled with relentless preparation. Princess Lyra poured all her energy into training her warriors and fortifying the defenses of Xaloria. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and the resolve of her people was unyielding. They knew that the betrayal by the humans would not go unpunished. In the grand training arena, the sound of clashing swords and the cries of warriors echoed through the air. Lyra watched as her troops engaged in fierce combat drills, honing their skills with every strike. She moved among them, offering encouragement and praise, her presence igniting their spirits. "Focus. Every blow counts," she shouted, her voice ringing with authority. The soldiers responded, their determination palpable. They were ready to follow her into battle, ready to defend their home. Meanwhile, the commanders strategized around a large holographic map in the war room. Tarek stood at the forefront, pointing out key locations. "We must position our fleet at the eastern borders. If the humans launch an attack, this will be their likely route," he explained, his finger tracing a path on the glowing map. Lyra nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of what was to come. "And what of our spies? Have we received any new information?" she asked, glancing at another commander, Zara, who had been monitoring human movements. "We have reports that the humans are mobilizing their forces as well. They are aware of our preparations," Zara replied, concern etched on her face. We must act quickly before they strike first. Then let's make our move, Lyra said decisively. We will show them that Siluria stands united and unyielding. We will not be victims of betrayal. As the sun rose on the day of the planned counterattack, Lyra felt a mix of excitement and dread. She had gathered her forces, and now they stood ready, their armor gleaming under the morning light. Her heart raced as she addressed her troops from a raised platform. Today, we fight not just for our planet, but for our honor, she declared, her voice strong and passionate. The humans thought they could betray us without consequences, but we will show them the might of Siluria. Together, we will reclaim our dignity and defend our home. Cheers erupted from the crowd, their voices rising like a tide of determination. The sight of her people rallying behind her filled Lyra with hope. She knew that they would fight bravely, but doubt lingered in her mind. Would they be able to withstand whatever the humans had in store? With a final rallying cry, Lyra led her forces to the docks, where their fleet awaited. The massive ships floated gracefully in the water, each one equipped with advanced technology and weapons. As she boarded her flagship, the Vanguard, she felt a surge of pride and responsibility. This was her moment to prove her worth as a leader. Commander Tarek, prepare our fleet for departure, she ordered, taking her place at the helm. Tarek nodded, his face serious as he relayed the command. The engines roared to life, and the ship surged forward, cutting through the water with determination. Behind her, the rest of the fleet followed, a formidable line of ships ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they reached the edge of Siluria's atmosphere, Lyra gazed at the vastness of space stretching out before her. She could feel the weight of her decisions pressing down on her, but she pushed the thoughts aside. This was a fight for her people, for their future. Set course for the human territories, she commanded, her heart steady. We will confront them directly and show them the consequences of their actions. The crew worked efficiently, following her orders without hesitation. Lyra could see the determination in their eyes, a reflection of her own resolve. They were ready to fight, ready to defend their home against the betrayal that had rocked their world. As they approached the human borders, Lyra's heart raced. The vastness of space felt both exhilarating and daunting. In the distance, she could see the faint outlines of human ships. They were preparing for battle, and the tension in the air was thick. Enemy ships spotted ahead. One of the crew shouted, bringing everyone's attention to the monitors. A fleet of human vessels appeared, lined up and ready for confrontation. Lyra could see the insignia of the Earth Alliance prominently displayed, a stark reminder of the betrayal she had endured. Steady, everyone, Lyra said, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. We are here to defend our home. Prepare to engage the enemy. The crew moved swiftly, readying weapons and positioning the ship for battle. Lyra took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. She knew this fight would be pivotal, not just for her but for the future of Siluria. As they closed in on the human fleet, she could feel the tension building. The time for words had passed. Now it was time for action. Open a channel to the human fleet, she ordered. The communications officer quickly complied, and a moment later, the screen flickered to life, revealing the human flagship. Lyra's heart pounded as she saw Alex standing at the helm, his expression a mix of concern and determination. Lyra, don't do this. We can still talk. We can find a way to resolve this without bloodshed. Bloodshed, Lyra echoed, her anger flaring. You betrayed us, Alex. You have no idea what you've set in motion. This is not just about us anymore. It's about the survival of my people. Please, listen to me, he implored, desperation in his eyes. I didn't want any of this. I wanted peace between our worlds. The Council has already made their choice, she interrupted, her voice firm. And now, we will make ours. Prepare to engage. As she cut off the communication, she felt a surge of emotions. Anger, sadness, but also a fierce resolve. She would not let her heart sway her decisions any longer. The battle for Xaloria was about to begin, and she would lead her people to victory, no matter the cost. The first volley of energy blasts lit up the darkness of space as the two fleets clashed, marking the beginning of a fierce battle. Lyra stood at the helm, ready to fight for her people, determined to avenge the betrayal that had brought them to this moment. The gathering storm had finally unleashed its fury, and Princess Lyra was at its center. The battle begins. The moment the energy blast struck, a shockwave reverberated through Lyra's flagship, the Vanguard. Alarms blared, and the crew moved with practiced efficiency, their adrenaline pumping as they prepared for the chaos of battle. Lyra stood at the helm, her eyes locked on the screen, where the human ships engaged their weapons, sending a barrage of fire toward her fleet. "Shields up! Activate countermeasures!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the din. The crew scrambled to comply, and she felt the vibrations of the shields activating beneath her feet. The hum of energy surged through the ship, and she could see the glowing barrier enveloping them. Enemy ships approaching from the left. A crew member called out, pointing at the tactical display. Lyra focused on the screen, where several human vessels were veering toward them, their weapons charged and ready to fire. "Prepare to return fire," she commanded, her heart pounding. She could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The lives of her people depended on her decisions. As the Vanguard's weapon systems powered up, Lyra felt a surge of determination. This was not just a battle for Xaloria. It was a fight to reclaim the honor that had been stolen from her. She would show the humans that their betrayal had consequences. The ship rocked as the first energy blast from a human ship struck their shields. Lyra steadied herself, gritting her teeth as she watched the readouts. "Damage report," she yelled. "Shields at 70%. Minor damage to the starboard side," came the quick response from a crew member. Lyra nodded, her mind racing. They needed to be strategic. Every decision mattered in the chaos of battle. "Fire back. Target the lead human ship," she ordered, pointing to the largest vessel on the screen. The crew swiftly responded, and the ship's cannons fired in unison, sending a volley of energy blasts toward their enemy. The shots connected, lighting up the dark void of space. The human ship shuddered under the impact, and Lyra felt a rush of satisfaction. "Good hit. Keep the pressure on," she encouraged her crew. But the battle was far from over. The human fleet retaliated, firing in rapid succession. Energy blasts soared through space, illuminating the darkness as they exploded against the shields of the Vanguard and its accompanying ships. Lyra's heart raced with each blast, but she remained focused on the task at hand. "Divert power to the forward shields," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to withstand their attack." As the crew obeyed her orders, she glanced at the tactical display. The battlefield was a flurry of movement. Silurian ships maneuvering to avoid enemy fire while returning fire with fierce determination. Lyra felt a surge of pride for her people. They fought valiantly against the odds. "Commander Tarek, coordinate with the other ships," she called, turning to her trusted advisor. "We need to flank them and create an opening." Tarek nodded, quickly relaying her commands to the other ships. Together, they executed a synchronized maneuver, weaving through the enemy lines in a coordinated attack. The Xalorian fleet surged forward, and Lyra could feel the energy of the battle coursing through her. "Now, attack," she yelled, her voice rising above the din. The fleet unleashed a devastating barrage on the unsuspecting human ships, catching them off guard. Explosions erupted, and the debris scattered through space, a testament to their fierce determination. But as victory seemed within reach, Lyra's heart sank. In the chaos, she spotted a massive human battleship emerging from the shadows, its weapons primed and ready. It was larger than any ship she had ever seen, and its presence sent a wave of dread through her. Fall back, she shouted, realizing the danger. "We can't take on that ship head-on." The crew scrambled to adjust their positions, but it was too late. The battleship opened fire, and a series of energy blasts streaked toward them, illuminating the darkness. Lyra braced herself as the impact shook the Vanguard. The ship rocked violently, alarms blaring as systems began to fail. "Report," she yelled, trying to maintain control. Panic surged in her chest as she feared the worst. "Shields down to 30%. We've sustained heavy damage to the engines," a crew member shouted, urgency in their voice. Lyra felt her heart drop. They were vulnerable. "Divert all power to the shields. We must hold out," she commanded, her voice unwavering even as doubt crept into her mind. She couldn't let her people down. They had come too far to falter now. As the crew worked frantically to stabilize the ship, Lyra's thoughts turned to Alex. He was on the opposing side, fighting against her. Could he see the devastation wrought by his people? Did he regret the betrayal? Shaking her head, she pushed those thoughts aside. This was no time for distraction. She had a duty to her people, and she would see it through. "Target that battleship. We need to disable its weapons," she ordered, focusing on the tactical display. The crew responded with urgency, aligning their weapons for a counterattack. As they fired, the energy blast struck the battleship's hull, causing it to shudder. Lyra felt a surge of hope. Perhaps they could turn the tide of battle yet. But as the chaos raged on, she knew that this fight would demand everything they had. "Press the attack. We will not be cowed by betrayal," she declared, her spirit unyielding. With each blast exchange, she reaffirmed her resolve. This battle was not just for survival, it was a declaration of their strength, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of Siloria. As the battle continued, Lyra's heart raced with every clash of weapons and roar of energy blasts. The struggle for her home planet had reached a critical point, and she knew that the outcome would shape the future of both Siloria and Earth. With the weight of her people on her shoulders, she pressed on, determined to reclaim what had been lost and ensure that the betrayal would not go unanswered. The turning tide. The battlefield roared around Lyra, a cacophony of explosions and the cries of her crew echoing in her ears. The air was thick with tension, and she could feel every heartbeat thudding in her chest as she fought to keep her ship steady. The battleship loomed ominously before them, its powerful weapons ready to unleash another round of destruction. "Status report," she barked, gripping the controls tightly. Her crew scrambled to relay the information, their faces etched with determination and fear. "The forward shields are down to 15%. We're losing power to the weapon systems," a crew member shouted, panic rising in their voice. Lyra's mind raced. They were on the brink of defeat, but she refused to surrender. "We need a plan. Commander Tarek, what are our options?" Tarek, focused and calm amidst the chaos, looked at the tactical display, his brow furrowed. "If we can create a distraction, we might be able to flank the battleship and target its engines. That would give us a fighting chance." Lyra nodded, her eyes narrowing with determination. "Then let's create that distraction. Prepare to initiate the decoy protocol." As the crew sprang into action, Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their home, their honor, and their future. The energy within her stirred, igniting a fire of hope even in the darkest hour. "Activate the decoys. Now," she commanded, her voice steady. The crew launched the holographic decoys into space, creating a flurry of false targets that swirled around the battlefield. The human battleship, confused by the sudden appearance of multiple targets, hesitated momentarily. "Now while they're distracted, all ships, engage," Lyra shouted, her heart racing as they seized the opportunity. The Silurian fleet, fueled by newfound determination, surged forward, firing with precision at the battleship's exposed flank. Energy blasts connected, causing the massive ship to shudder violently. Lyra felt a rush of exhilaration. They had found a weakness. "Target the engines," she ordered, her voice a fierce rallying cry. We can end this. As the crew focused their fire, Lyra's heart raced. They were pushing back against the tide, reclaiming the battlefield inch by inch. The sight of the battleship's hull lighting up under their relentless assault filled her with renewed resolve. Shields holding at 10%. A crew member shouted, but Lyra didn't flinch. They had to press on. The crew's coordinated efforts began to pay off. The massive battleship began to falter, its movements sluggish as the blast struck its engines. "We're breaking through," Lyra exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "Keep it up, everyone." But as they fought, a dark shadow loomed over her heart. Alex, the human she had once trusted, was out there, fighting against her. How could he stand against her? Would he realize that this battle was not just about duty, but about the lives affected by betrayal? A sudden jolt interrupted her thoughts. The battleship, regaining some control, fired its weapons at them with renewed fury. Energy blasts whizzed past, striking the Xilorian ships and causing them to tremble under the impact. "Focus fire on the battleship," Lyra yelled, desperation creeping into her voice. "We can't let them regroup." With determination, she commanded her crew to attack relentlessly, the Xilorian ships unleashing everything they had. The energy blasts lit up the void of space as they connected, and the battleship began to visibly weaken. "We're breaking through its defenses," Tarek reported, hope brightening his voice. "Just a little more." Lyra felt a wave of exhilaration wash over her as she watched their collective efforts slowly turning the tide of battle. But then, a chilling realization struck her. They were still outnumbered. More human ships were approaching from behind the battleship, reinforcements arriving just in time to turn the tide back in the humans' favor. "More enemy ships incoming," a crew member shouted. "They're flanking us." No. Lyra felt her heart drop as she assessed the situation. They had fought so hard to get this far, but now they faced the threat of being overwhelmed. "We need to regroup. All ships, fall back to the rendezvous point." The urgency in her voice spurred her crew into action, and they began to maneuver their ships away from the incoming threat. The tension was palpable as they retreated, but Lyra knew they needed to regroup and strategize. They would not go down without a fight. As they pulled back, Lyra's heart raced with frustration and fear. They had come so close to victory, only to be faced with a new wave of challenges. But deep down, she also felt a flicker of hope. They had shown their strength, their resilience, and their ability to fight back against betrayal. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," she commanded, determined to outsmart their opponents. "We'll use the asteroid field as cover and regroup. We'll hit them again." With renewed purpose, the Vanguard and the remaining Xilorian ships slipped into the shadows of the asteroid field. They would plan their next move, and Lyra knew they would come back stronger. The fight was not over. It was only just beginning. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, Lyra's thoughts turned once more to Alex. She had to believe that he would understand the depth of their fight, the truth behind her anger. If only they could meet once more, maybe he would see that she was not just an enemy but someone fighting for what was right. "We will reclaim what has been lost," she whispered to herself, determination flooding her veins. The battle may be far from over, but she would not give up. With her crew by her side, and the spirit of Xiloria ignited within her, she knew they would rise again to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the last echoes of battle faded, Lyra steeled herself for the challenges to come. The fight against betrayal had only just begun, and she was ready to face whatever darkness awaited them. The stakes were high, but her heart burned bright with hope and determination. Together, they would rise again, and together, they would reclaim their future. The final confrontation. The asteroid field was a swirling maze of rock and debris, a perfect hiding spot for the Xilorian fleet as they regrouped. Lyra, still feeling the adrenaline from the battle, stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, determination coursing through her veins. Her crew worked diligently, patching up damaged systems and strategizing their next move. "Commander, we analyzed the enemy's formations," Tarek reported, looking up from the tactical display. "They're concentrating their forces around the battleship. If we can split their attention, we might have a chance to strike." Lyra nodded, her mind racing. "We can't just attack blindly. We need to draw them away from their stronghold and weaken their defenses first." Tarek nodded, eyes shining with eagerness. "I suggest we deploy a series of decoys to lure some of their ships away. Once they're split, we can hit the battleship hard." The plan sounded risky but necessary. "Do it. Prepare the decoys, and let's get to work," Lyra commanded, her voice steady. The crew sprang into action, the atmosphere charged with renewed hope. As the decoys were launched into space, they projected multiple false signals, simulating a fleet of Silurian ships. The human forces quickly began to respond, diverting some of their ships towards the bait. Lyra watched anxiously as the enemy started to break formation. "Now's our chance," she shouted, excitement bubbling in her chest. "All ships, engage. Target the battleship's weak points." The Silurian fleet surged forward, weapons primed and ready. Energy blasts filled the void of space as they opened fire on the massive battleship, striking its shields with relentless determination. The moment was electrifying. They were no longer just defending. They were attacking, reclaiming their power. "Shields holding at 30%. A crew member shouted, his eyes wide with exhilaration. "We're making progress. Keep it up. We can't let up now," Lyra urged, her heart pounding with adrenaline. They had a chance to turn the tide of battle, and she would not let it slip away. As the Silurian ships continued their assault, the battleship began to shake under the onslaught. Lyra could see the crew on the bridge of the Vanguard working with a fierce intensity, each one determined to reclaim their home. But amidst the excitement, she could not shake the feeling of dread regarding Alex. The thought of facing him again sent a shiver down her spine. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the battlefield. Lyra's heart dropped as she witnessed a portion of the human fleet break away to reinforce the battleship. The tide of battle was shifting again, and Lyra felt a rush of fear. "Commander, they're bringing in reinforcements," Tarek warned, his voice taut with urgency. "We need to retreat." "No," Lyra shouted, resolve hardening in her chest. "We've come too far to back down now. We need to push harder. We can't let them regroup." Just then, a familiar ship emerged from the chaos, a sleek human vessel, the Odyssey, cutting through the debris with precision. Lyra's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized its distinctive markings. Inside, Alex was at the helm. The sight of him stirred a whirlpool of emotions within her. Memories of their time together flashed through her mind, mixed with the anger of betrayal. But this was not just about her. It was about their peoples, their futures. "Commander, we need to focus." Tarek's voice snapped her back to reality. "The battleship is charging its main cannon." Lyra's heart raced. Evasive maneuvers. All ships, scatter. The crew scrambled to follow her orders, maneuvering the Vanguard and the other ships to avoid the incoming blast. The battleship unleashed a blinding beam of energy, striking the space where they had just been. The shockwave rocked their ships, and Lyra felt the tension in her muscles as they fought to regain control. "Status report," she barked, trying to keep her focus amidst the chaos. "Shields down to 15%. A crew member replied, panic edging their voice. "We need to regroup or we'll be overwhelmed." Lyra glanced at the approaching Odyssey. She could see Alex on the bridge, his expression grim but determined. Alex, she thought, her heart clenching at the sight of him. Why did it have to come to this? "Commander, they're moving to flank us," Tarek shouted, breaking through her thoughts. "No, we can't let them outmaneuver us," Lyra yelled, determination boiling inside her. "We will not back down. Prepare to engage at close range." As they moved closer to the battleship, Lyra steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation. They were about to cross paths with Alex and his crew, and she needed to be ready for anything. The two ships came into view, the Vanguard and the Odyssey, each representing their own loyalties. As they prepared for the decisive moment, Lyra's heart raced with conflicting emotions. She would have to face the man she once loved, a man now standing against her. "On my mark," Lyra shouted, gripping the controls tightly. Now, they launched their final assault, energy blasts connecting with the battleship and the surrounding human vessels. The two sides collided, and the ensuing chaos was overwhelming. In the midst of the battle, Lyra caught Alex's gaze, and time seemed to freeze. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, everything she felt, anger, love, betrayal, swirled together in a maelstrom of emotions. "Lyra," Alex shouted over the comms, his voice breaking through the din of battle. "We don't have to do this." "Then stand down," she replied, her voice fierce yet pained. "You don't understand what they've done." "Then tell me. We can find a way to fix this," he pleaded, but Lyra shook her head, knowing that trust had been shattered. In that instant, everything hung in the balance. The future of their worlds was at stake, and the choices they made would define everything. With renewed determination, Lyra made her decision. "We fight for our people," she declared. "We will not let betrayal win." And so, the battle raged on. As the Xilorian fleet clashed against the human forces, Lyra and Alex, once allies and now enemies, faced each other across the battlefield, both knowing that the final confrontation was yet to come. As the dust settled and the stakes grew ever higher, both sides prepared for the showdown that would determine the fate of their worlds, united in their strength yet divided by their choices. The battle was far from over, and neither would back down. The reckoning. The battlefield was a cacophony of sounds, the rumble of engines, the crackling of energy blasts, and the cries of battle. Lyra stood at the helm of the Vanguard, heart racing, as she prepared for the final push against the human forces. Each moment felt charged with tension, the fate of both their worlds hanging in the balance. "Commander, we're in position," Tarek called out, his fingers dancing over the controls. "The Odyssey is just ahead. We can intercept them now." Lyra nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She knew that facing Alex again would be the most challenging part of this battle. He had been her ally, her love, but now he was her enemy, standing against everything she fought for. "Let's do it," she commanded, steeling herself for the confrontation. "All ships, prepare for a full assault on the Odyssey and the battleship. We end this now." As the Vanguard surged forward, Lyra's mind flashed back to the day they met. The warmth of Alex's smile, the way he had looked at her with admiration. It all seemed like a distant memory now, but she pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the task ahead. Her people depended on her. The Xilorian ships advanced, weapons charged and ready. They entered the fray, energy blasts lighting up the dark void of space as they targeted the Odyssey. Lyra felt a pang of sorrow at the sight of Alex's ship. He was in there, fighting for what he believed in, just as she was. "Commander, we're taking fire," a crew member shouted, jolting her back to reality. "Shields at 50%. Return fire. Target their weapon systems." Lyra yelled, determination flooding her voice. The crews sprang into action, firing back at the human ships as the battle raged on. The Odyssey darted through the chaos, weaving in and out of enemy fire. Lyra could see Alex on the bridge, his expression fierce as he coordinated his crew. For a moment, their eyes locked again, and Lyra felt a mix of anger and longing. She wished things could have been different, but there was no time for nostalgia. The battleship loomed ahead, its massive form casting a shadow over the battlefield. It was now or never. "Commander, the battleship is preparing to fire its main cannon," Tarek warned, his voice taut with urgency. "We need to take it out before it fires." Lyra's heart raced. "Divert all power to the forward shields. We need to absorb that blast." As they positioned themselves for the attack, Lyra couldn't shake the sense of dread that hung over her. If they failed, everything they fought for would be lost. But there was no turning back now. "Launch all torpedoes. Target the battleship's reactor," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The crew responded with precision, sending a barrage of torpedoes hurtling toward the battleship. The moment felt electric, time stretching as the torpedoes soared through space. Lyra held her breath, watching intently as they impacted against the battleship's hull. The explosion was massive, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. But just as victory seemed within reach, the battleship's main cannon fired. A blinding beam of energy shot out, aimed directly at the vanguard. "Brace for impact," Lyra shouted, gripping the controls tightly. The ship shuddered as the beam struck, shaking everyone on board. The screens flickered with warning lights, and alarms blared through the ship. "Shields down to 20%. A crew member yelled, panic creeping into their voice. "Stabilize the ship. Keep us steady," Lyra commanded, her heart pounding in her chest. They couldn't afford to falter now. As the dust settled from the explosion, Lyra looked up to see the battleship still standing, albeit damaged. The fight was far from over. They had to finish what they started. "Prepare for a boarding maneuver," Lyra ordered, her eyes narrowing as she turned to Tarek. "We're going to take the fight to them." With renewed determination, the vanguard moved closer to the battleship. The crew prepared for the assault, arming themselves with weapons and boarding gear. Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline as they initiated the docking procedure. "On my mark, we breach their hull," she instructed, her voice steady. "Stay sharp and watch your backs." As they breached the hull and entered the battleship, chaos erupted around them. The sound of blaster fire echoed through the corridors as they fought their way toward the command center. Lyra led her crew, determination etched on her face. "Push forward. We have to reach the control room," she shouted, firing her weapon at approaching enemies. The tension in the air was palpable, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the enemy ship. Finally, they reached the command center. Lyra's heart raced as she burst through the door, ready to confront the human leadership. But instead, she found Alex standing there, his eyes fierce yet conflicted. "Lyra," he shouted, raising his weapon. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," she shot back, her voice trembling with emotion. "This has to end, Alex. We can't keep fighting like this." "We can't back down now," he replied, his eyes blazing. "I have to protect my people." "You don't have to do this," Lyra pleaded, her heart aching at the sight of him. "We can find a way to end this without more bloodshed." For a moment, the tension hung in the air like a thick fog. They stood facing each other, each caught in the whirlwind of their emotions. The chaos of battle raged around them, but in that moment, all that mattered was the choice before them. "Lyra," Alex began, but before he could finish, the battleship rocked with another explosion. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered. "Now or never," Lyra shouted, taking a step forward. "Join me. We can save our worlds together." But as Alex hesitated, a surge of energy ignited within her. The love they had shared clashed with the reality they now faced. The battle was not just for their people, but for their hearts. With a heavy heart, Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her decision. "I won't fight you, Alex, but I will fight for what's right." In that moment, they both understood the true cost of their choices. As the battle raged on outside, they stood at the crossroads of fate, knowing that whatever they decided would shape the future of both their worlds forever. Lyra extended her hand, her heart open, ready to embrace the possibility of a new beginning. "Together," she said softly, hoping against hope that he would see the truth in her words. As the chaos around them intensified, the final confrontation loomed, and they both knew that whatever happened next would define not just their destinies, but the destinies of their entire peoples. The reckoning was at hand, and the choices they made would echo through time. shaping the future of their worlds forever.